Christ. Please be seated. I want you to imagine a wall of sound behind me. You never close your eyes anymore when I kiss your lips. And there's no tenderness like before in your fingertips. You're trying hard not to show it. But baby, I know it. You've lost that loving feeling. Whoa, that loving feeling. You've lost that loving feeling, and it's gone, gone, gone. Whoa, whoa. Is there a sadder song than that about a relationship? And all of us have been there. We either were singing it to somebody because we still love them and they decided they didn't love us anymore, or we lost that love and feeling and they want to keep hanging on. And that song describes the trajectory of all kinds of relationships and not just romantic ones. You get a new job and you're excited about this fresh adventure. And you go in, and then a couple of months or years later, the adventure turns into a grind. And your coworkers are jerks, and the customers are surly, and the work gets boring, and you've lost that love and feeling about your work. You move into a new place with visions of making it into your castle, and then a pipe breaks, or the roof leaks, or you have noisy neighbors, or they raise the rent, and you've lost that love and feeling about your home. It happens with friends. It happens with computers. It happens with cars. It happens with telephones. Happens with Christmas presents. You know, you get it. It's all new. You're fired up about it, but before long, the flame dies down and you've lost that love and feeling. And it happens with God, too. God does something that touches your heart, or you hear a song that grabs you, or He answers a prayer, or you have a close call, and you know that it's God that protected you, and you and God are tight. But over time, the repetition of the liturgy gets to you, or you try to read Numbers or First Chronicles, and you get bogged down in all of those names, or you get scared, or you're in the mess, and it doesn't look like God's doing anything to help you out, and you've lost that loving feeling, and it's gone. Gone, gone, whoa, whoa. And that's what we saw happen today to the prophet Elijah. Now, the part that Vince read for us, if you go back a day earlier, if you go back about half a chapter earlier, you find out that Elijah sets up this contest between God, our God, and the idol Baal. And so Elijah proposes a contest. He gathers together the folks of Israel. He says, you know what? You 850 prophets of Baal, and there's only me. Let's have a contest. Let's both offer sacrifice, and we see which God sends fire down from heaven. And everybody says, that sounds like a great idea. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? And so Elijah says, there's 850 of y'all, and there's only one of me, so y'all get to go first. Elijah was from southern Israel. So the 850 prophets of Baal, they gather stones and they build an altar and they cut some wood and they put on top of it and they kill their cow and they put the pieces on there, and then they start singing and praying and shouting and dancing around the altar from all morning till noon. Nothing. Nothing. So Elijah starts trash talking. He says, maybe your God's asleep. Maybe you need to yell a little louder and wake him up. Maybe he's gone on a trip. Maybe he's in the bathroom. Elijah actually says that. Check it out. And you think the Bible is boring. Well, they go flying into praying and singing and dancing all afternoon, and they cut themselves with stones and make themselves bleed to show how dedicated they are to their God. Nothing happens. And late in the afternoon, Elijah says, my turn. And Elijah does the same thing. He takes some stones and he builds an altar and he cuts some wood and puts on top of it, and he kills a cow and he cuts it up and puts it on top of the wood, and then he digs a trench all the way around the altar. And then he calls some guys and says, go get 4 buckets of water and dump on the sacrifice. So they do. He says, do it again. So they do. He says, do it again. So they do. It soaks the meat, soaks the wood, runs down and fills up the whole ditch around the altar. And then Elijah says, okay, God, show them who's really God. And fire comes down out of heaven and burns up the meat and burns up the wood and burns up the stones of the altar and licks up the water in the ditch around the altar. And everybody goes, whoa. That'd be pretty impressive, wouldn't it? And so the people cheer, the Lord is God, the Lord is God. And somebody says, well, what should we do about all those prophets of Baal? And Elijah says, kill them. And they do. And that's where we entered the story that Vince read today, because Queen Jezebel has heard that all of her favorite prophets are dead, and she sends a message to Elijah, says, you're next, buddy. And Elijah freaks out and runs away. And we think, wait a minute. Yesterday, you just won the biggest battle of your life. You saw fire come down from heaven and burn up the water. You were part of a major miracle. And you're going to let a little threat from some queen rattle you? Yep. Because Elijah is like us a lot of times in that, God, it's nice what you did yesterday, but what have you done for me recently? What have you done for me today? And what Elijah does next actually is helpful. Because you see, Elijah has lost that loving feeling. And it's gone, whoa. And what he does, though, is actually wise to learn from when we get scared or we feel alone or abandoned or when we've lost that loving feeling for God. And the first thing to do is to remember this. Feelings fluctuate. Feelings fluctuate. Yesterday, Elijah's like, you and me, God, we're tight. We're on it. And today, he's like, whoa, God, where are you? I'm out of here. Feelings fluctuate. They always do. They always rise and fall. They always come and go. You know this. You know this because your feelings do that. And when feelings fluctuate, let's not be surprised. Let's not be surprised. Instead, let's do what Elijah did. Run away. If things get scary or look dangerous, let's put some distance between us and the situation so that we can look at it from safety. In other words, when feelings fluctuate, evacuate. Elijah did, and after a couple of days of running away, he's out in the wilderness. He's so ragged out and tired, he finds some shade under a bush and he lies down and goes to sleep. If life has you scared or ragged out and so tired that you've lost that love and feeling, take a nap. Take a nap. Get some rest. Go to bed early instead of late. In other words, when your feelings fluctuate, get prostrate. A good night's sleep or a nap will help you see things more clearly. Well, an angel wakes him up, gives him some hot bread and cool water, says, eat and drink. When we're scared or tired or confused or lost or lonely, eat something. Eat something because a good meal and a full tummy renews our strength and our courage. In other words, when your feelings fluctuate, masticate. Eat something. Nobody thinks clearly when they're hangry. Elijah goes back to sleep. He wakes up. He eats again because a healthy diet and adequate sleep are vital to our overall health, especially for our spirit and our emotions, our fluctuating feelings. Well, Elijah walks 40 days to Mount Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai, where Moses saw the burning bush and got the 10 Commandments. And he goes there because he knows God is there. If you're running away from danger, make sure that you're running toward God. Run in your house to wherever you pray best. Run here. We're open every day. Run to your Bible. Run to a Christian friend. Run toward God because He listens to our prayers. In other words, When your feelings fluctuate, perambulate and head toward God. Well, Elijah gets to the mountain. He camps out in a cave. And when God shows up, Elijah complains, I've been good, God. I did everything you said to do, and they don't like it. And they've torn down your altars and broken your covenant, and they've rejected you, and they've rejected me, and they've killed all your prophets, and I'm the only one left, and now they want to kill me too. When we're scared or anxious or confused or feeling lost or lonely, when we've lost that love and feeling for God, let's tell God what's in our heart and what's on our mind, and tell Him how we feel and what we'd like Him to do about it. In other words, when your feelings fluctuate, enumerate and tell God what's got you feeling that way. Because you are not alone. You're not the only one who's felt that way. You're not being unfaithful or bad to have those feelings, because remember, feelings fluctuate. They come and go. And that's why we prayed those two Psalms today, Psalm 42 and 43, because 3 times in those Psalms, the writer bounces back and forth between fear and faith, between anxiety and action, between cowardice and courage. 3 times it cries out, why are you so full of heaviness, O my soul? And why are you so disquieted within me? God, I'm scared, I'm anxious, I don't know what to do. But then immediately the writer counters, put your trust in God. For I will yet give thanks to Him who is the help of my countenance and my God. I'm scared, God, but I choose to trust you. I don't know what needs to happen next, but you do. I'm in a mess, but God is going to get me through. And these Psalms recognize that our feelings fluctuate. And when our feelings fluctuate, we can hang on to what is true rather than what are merely feelings. When we've lost that love and feeling, let's tell God how we feel and what we'd like Him to do, and then let's look and listen for God's voice, God's answer, God's instructions, God's directions. In other words, when your feelings fluctuate, fixate on God to see and hear what He might say or do, because that's what's true. God answers Elijah, suck it up, Elijah. Get off up your butt and go back the way you came. And God tells him to go to a couple of countries and anoint some guys kings. And He tells him to go find Elijah and anoint him to be his apprentice prophet. And then God says, oh, and Elijah, you're not the only one who's left serving me. I have 7,000 other people who have not bowed the knee to Baal or kissed his statue. When you're scared or anxious or confused or bewildered or wondering what to do next, when you've lost that love and feeling for God, take heart, because you are not the only one who's ever felt that way. You are not the only one who feels that way right now. And you are certainly not the only one who will ever feel that way in the future. And this is not the only time you're going to feel this way. Remember that. Remember that feelings come and go. Feelings fluctuate. And when our feelings fluctuate, let's cooperate with God. And when you feel that way again, let's not be surprised. Instead, every time we feel that way, let's repeat what we learned from Elijah. Let's evacuate and put some distance between us and whatever it is that has us in a lather. When we're tired and hungry, let's get prostrate and take a nap. Let's masticate and eat something. Let's perambulate and run toward God and where we know we can find Him, like here every Sunday. And when we get with Him, let's enumerate and tell Him what's on our heart and mind, what we'd like Him to do about it. And then let's fixate and look and listen for His voice and cooperate with what He says. Our feelings are going to come and go, rise and fall. They always do. You know that. And when our feelings fluctuate, let's cooperate with God.